Hello, everyone. I'm Jamie Price. I want to talk about the eclipse series from March and April and share what I'm receiving about how this relates to the next series in September and October. And I'm not an astrologer, so please look to them for greater detail around the astrology of the eclipses. I can only share the energetic overview that I receive about them. And I've put a link to the written post below because I wrote it before I did this video and it really informed me. It is such an activating poem that I highly recommend you read. The lunar eclipse in Libra on March 25th had a really strong emphasis to bring balance and equality, things that are being worked out and obviously also avoided in so many ways in the world at large. And the solar eclipse on April 8th in Aries was very powerful, and I feel its overall energy as a delineation between unity or separation or degradation versus evolution. Now, of course, I live in the US and it was visible here, but it certainly affects other areas and those with corresponding astrology. The last eclipse visible in the US was 2017, and Ariane talked about that one, saying that polarity was going to increase more among people, even among light workers. And that was certainly correct. But when this one came along, actually, I was teaching a lot. So even though I enjoyed watching the eclipse, I couldn't get too deep into the information or the energy of it yet because my energy goes towards class. But the day after my main teaching cycle ended, here came the information. The first thing that I heard was the return of the dove. And then I heard turning back the clocks. So we'll talk about both of those, what they're indicating, and the rabbit hole that I went down because of them. And also, I saw that it formed an X over the US when you compiled like the pictures where they compiled the 2017 eclipse path, actually this way for me, and the current eclipse path. And I actually perceived this as not necessarily good or bad, just an indicator of strong nodes and flows of energy, like a line being crossed. And when I heard Return of the Dove, I immediately thought of the Keys of Enoch, which is an intense and amazing book that I highly recommend, even though you have to read it with care because you have to interpret. I remember there's a map of the return of the dove shown over North America, which is where the eclipse was visible, but there was much more to it than that. And the way that this information has been unfolding for me has been over kind of a long period of time. So I want to give you a little bit of background to kind of tie all of this together. The timing of the Egypt trip that I'm co-leading in September began with a lot of synchronicities, but one of them was my friend John Burgos and I separately getting the same time frame for the trip. And a little later, I remembered that Ariane had given me an overview of the energies of 2024 back in mid 23. And as usual, I wrote them down however the energy is flowing. And they sometimes do that. They will give me sometimes just a month, sometimes a couple of months, sometimes quite a few months, and then it'll stop. However it flows, I make a note of it. But this was the earliest they had ever given me so much of the upcoming energies. They fully outlined 2024. And I had forgotten the details. I don't remember what all of them are. I have to go back to where I wrote it down. So I went back, and for September of 2024, the energies that I got was preparing the body. And then I had scribbled Egypt and Akhenaten next to that. You know, that was the only note that came through. And that was the time that we had both separately felt like we should do the trip to Egypt. And I didn't have further information because Ariane was just listing the energies very quickly. But when I went back to those notes, it was really great confirmation that we had both tuned into the appropriate time for that trip. And that feeling that the things that we're going there to activate and resolve and bring forward was tied into all of these other things. And I thought this was just timing that related to the eclipses because we'll be there on the solar eclipse on October 2nd. But there's actually a lot more to it. In the Keys of Enoch, the key with the return of the dove, it begins in that first paragraph with consciousness is connected to the Great Pyramid in Giza. And that blew my mind. Like all of this was starting to feel so tuned in, especially with why after the series in March and April, where I usually call the eclipse window, those 2 weeks between eclipses, I felt so strongly like these 5 months or so, this is the real eclipse window, that these two series are like a connected bookends more than normal. They're always connected. But now there's certainly a lot in the Return of the Dove key that feels connected to future times if you're reading through the Keys of Enoch there. But there are some things that feel pertinent to now, like what we're going through is part of a longer cycle. And one part mentions the Great Pyramid in Giza. It was an initiation point for the vehicles of the dove. And that's you. It's the people who are aligned with loving light. And I'm not saying that this trip in September, all of this is going to initiate at that time. It's an important trip, but this is not about a few people or a time frame. It has already been occurring through time with all the powerful conscious light workers who have been in the past and continue to align with their power of love, that ascension work, which is always the inside job, and connecting with the pyramids, both in person and non-locally. So this is about everyone and the evolution of humanity. Now, in the key, it says that as the pyramids are fully connected with the energy grid properly, our consciousness and our Merkaba will move to the next evolutionary station. And it talks about the pyramid color cap or the keystone coming down upon the pyramid. And when I read that, I saw a rainbow pyramid that didn't just hold pyramid shape because it was actually spiraling, and it was aligning us with the fuller frequency of the higher mind, which is what that key is talking all about, creating more of that 0 point or that multidimensional access within each of us, looking like the rainbow body, so amplifying that even more. And it's also why Ariane has been talking about the tri-wave brain flow and how that's affecting our body as we open to the infinite mind. They refer to the tri-wave brain flow as not just amplifying full right-left brain flow, but the subconscious and the frontal lobe connecting more directly and creating that connection into the infinite mind. This key in the Keys of Enoch is about aligning with the higher mind. And importantly, the return of the dove. This key references peace returning, that the aligning people, those that are focused on love, are being prepared to usher in peace on earth. And that doesn't mean it's right in this moment. I wish it was, and I know that you do too. But change is happening beneath the surface, so have hope. And Physical changes in this way, they occur over time, but our energetic structure is changing. And that increases our coherence and it amplifies our creative harmonic, which is what Ariane has been talking about every year and what all of those monthly topics are about, shifting the inner so that those energetic changes, which are natural to us, are occurring more easily and that they're occurring more critically so that critical mass becomes easier to reach. Now, let's talk about turning back the clocks. This is the second thing that I heard before I referenced the keys of Enoch. What this felt like was a return of the clocks into another time access, or how like when we do energy healing, we work without the bounds of time and space. How the two opposites, the spiraling opposites, matter, antimatter, those spiraling opposites create that 0 point, shifting the resonance of your connection with time, both consciously and unconsciously. Another way of defining turning back the clocks is to access the neutrality, the 0 point, the Zeptepi, that creates a portal of connection with what we experience as the past in this linearity in order to create more neutrality. And this is moving beyond the bounds of time, even though we still experience linearity in this density. The keys of Enoch, the return to the dove key, referenced time a lot, and the time warp areas that are created by the pyramids and the higher dimensional access because of that, as well as the time warps being part of the return of the dove. So, turning back the clocks, though I know additional information about this is going to continue to unfold, is healing and accessing the past as the strength and the wisdom that it is meant to be in the physical. That cliche, we all stand on the backs of giants, is true. That's what the past is supposed to be. This supportive, strengthening wisdom of lesson learned so that evolution is flowing more smoothly. Just like the powerful pyramidal structure, it has that strong foundation. That is what the past is meant to be. And this weaves the power of time through our timeless nature, our neutrality, and anchoring it into our present moments, which means anchoring it here on Earth. And this is actually starting to kind of tie into some of the June information that's been coming up. And frankly, I've been wondering about it. So I'm actually going to leave it here for now, because as we are navigating these changes, most especially our energetic structure physically changing, this is amplified between these eclipses. March and April activated a new ground of powerful love that is amplified by our conscious focus and understanding of the true nature of life, the binding force of love. This is your world too, Lightworker. Love it boldly. I'll see you in the June video.